The South African Federation of Trade Unions will be hosting its second elective conference over the next 4 days. The selection of new leaders comes amid turmoil in the upper echelons of the organization after a letter of intention to suspend one of Saftu's founding members, that's Zwelinzima Vavi, was sent to the General Secretary back in March. Well, let's hear more about what we can expect out of this conference. Is he likely to even return as General Secretary? How's that relationship with Irvin Jim, one of the most influential affiliates in Saftu? Let's speak now to Ziyanda Ngcobo. Ziyanda, good morning to you. My understanding is that you are with the current General Secretary of Saftu.
I am indeed standing by with Zwelinzima Vavi, Xoli, and you know, one of the important things, Mr. Vavi, is to reflect then on how even Saftu came to exist. You were meant to be the new home of the working class. Numsa kicked out of COSATU. You were kicked out of COSATU, and yet we're in 2022, 5 years later, and there's some turmoil within your own leadership structures. You were issued with a letter of suspension from the national office bearers, and you're saying that Irvin Jim is behind this.
No, I'm not going to make this thing about the personal issues of myself or Irvin Jim. We are in a Congress of Workers. This is the Workers' Parliament. And it's a first day where we're going to be looking back to all of those issues that you are mentioning, how we came into being, what were the driving reasons and logic, where we are 5 years down the line. And that's going to be the debate, not Zwelinzima Vavi versus Irvin Jim in any way. I think if we were to go down that route, then we will go to a route of self-destruction. We, of course, are facing challenges coming to this Congress. There's no doubt about it. You know that I was put on suspension, in my view, for flimsy reasons. And
why do you think that happened? The timing of it. We must also mention it was in March, and now it's the Congress. Some would say, in fact, you've said in previous, I've seen in previous reports that this is actually laying the foundation ahead of this Congress.
Well, in my view, it was an attempt to make sure that I do not come to this Congress and that I become history by the time this Congress is taking place. It's an old factional trick happening in unions, unfortunately, but also in so many political parties. But yes, we are on our lowest point, there's no doubt. 4 office bearers suspended. That's going to be an issue for discussion, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. I don't know exactly when that thing is going to come up. The National Executive Committee is standing very firm that it took a constitutional and legal decision in relation to that suspension, and but the Congress is a structure above the National Executive Committee. So the National Congress may, after considering, decide to reverse that decision or affirm that decision through a convincing of delegates on the floor as they engage with each other, and when that's not possible, through a process of voting. Nothing will fall apart as a result of that.
It's quite soon to be seeing these factional tendencies for a federation, I should say, as young as Saftu. Yes, you've got, powerhouses such as Numsa that come from COSATU. Is it a cultural issue? How did you get to this point where you have 4 national office bearers suspended, where you are also saying there's politics at play here? What went wrong?
You have to read the report of the National Executive Committee we're presenting to this Congress. We trace everything in its greater details and presenting it here to the Workers' Parliament for them to engage with that. And there's no doubt that we started very well. I mean, you remember how we painted the streets of Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, every city red on the 25th of April, how we convened the Workers' Summit in July of 2018, how we convened major workshops, recruiting and fighting together in so many battles everywhere else in the country. It looks like to us things started to emerge and to be difficult following disagreements about how we relate to the 2019 elections. And from there on, we got hit by the coronavirus lockdowns. That put us back, couldn't do anything. But there were difficulties, and we will speak openly about the difficulties as to why, for example, we couldn't mobilize effectively in support of the International Day of Decent Work on the 7th of October 2020, and why we couldn't effectively mobilize for the battles against austerity in January, February of 2021, and why in some places we couldn't effectively mobilize for May Day, and whilst in other places May Day was such a colorful success. So it's difficult, but organizations at their teething stage are bound to face the same problems. With 5 years, we are putting together unions that are coming from such diverse backgrounds, and there's no doubt that those issues are going to be difficult to manage going forward.
Mr. Vavi, very quickly, because I'm out of time, but does this report also reflect on what seems to be the tendency of, politics of personalities? I know you said you don't want to speak about a Vavi versus Irvin Jim, but one cannot avoid that because that's actually something that's come up. I mean, what's your relationship with Mr. Irvin Jim, for an example? Because people look at what's happening at the top, and it has clearly trickled down to the affiliates of Saftu.
Well, there's no doubt that there has been difficulties and there has been differences, and those differences are going to play themselves out. The differences of the National Executive Committee that are now at the risk of splitting this Congress into half-half. And let's see what's going to happen.
All right. Short and sharp there, Koli. The differences threatening to split this Congress in half, which is exactly why we're here, to see exactly what will be of what was meant to be the consolidation of the workers' voice. Clearly then, the politics of personalities overshadowing that. 4 national office bearers suspended. Vavi was also one of them. He fought against that, basically saying that there are other forces at play here. So again, what we've seen in COSATU is also clearly now also trickling into Saftu, just at its only 2nd National Congress. So the mood here, I can tell you, Koli, the security is quite tight. There's vibrant singing outside from the various affiliates, including the South African Police Union, FAU. And of course, I'm waiting to spot Numsa here, and I haven't quite seen any of the delegates, but surely as one of the biggest affiliates of Saftu, their voice is going to matter.
Ziyanda, Ngcobo, thank you very much for that update. It should be one to watch.